Hello, amazing English learners. Welcome back to English in Advance. I am your host, Jessica, and I am so incredibly happy that you are here with me today. We have a very special and quite long episode ahead of us, one that I have been wanting to share with you for a very long time. We're going to explore a topic that might completely change the way you look at your English journey, a concept that is often misunderstood, ignored, or simply unknown to most students and even many teachers. We are going to dive deep into a concept titled The Silent Period Secret: Why Your Brain Refuses to Speak English. This is designed as B1 English listening practice, so I will speak clearly at a moderate pace, using useful vocabulary, and I will explain our ideas deeply, but I will also keep it natural and conversational, just like we are sitting in a comfortable cafe together, enjoying a warm drink and a deep conversation. So I invite you to settle in, maybe grab a notebook if you like to write down new words, but mostly just relax, open your ears, and let's get started on this journey of discovery. Have you ever felt that strange, specific kind of frustration where you understand exactly what someone is saying to you in English? You hear the words, you know the meaning, the grammar makes sense. But when you try to open your mouth to reply, nothing comes out, or if words do come out, they are slow, broken, and full of hesitation. It feels like there is a heavy wall between your brain and your mouth, or like your tongue is disconnected from your thoughts. Many learners feel this exact sensation every single day. They feel it in English classes, they feel it when traveling, and they feel it when trying to watch a movie. And when this happens, a negative thought often creeps into the mind. You might think, I am not talented at languages, or I am too shy to speak, or even worse, I will never be fluent, I am stuck forever. But what if I told you that this silence is not a problem? What if I told you that this silence, this hesitation, is actually a sign that your brain is working exactly as it should? What if I told you that the biggest mistake English learners make is forcing themselves to speak from the very first lesson? It sounds crazy, doesn't it? We live in a world of speak from day one apps and courses that promise you will be chatting away in a week. But the reality of how the human brain acquires language is very different from what most marketing tells you. When you force output too early, when you force yourself to speak before you are ready, you are actually hurting your ability to become fluent later. Today, we are going to explore the science behind this phenomenon, look at fascinating stories from history, and build a new roadmap for your success. We will look at why your brain might be refusing to speak, and why that refusal is actually a form of protection. Let me start with a fascinating story that puzzled researchers for many years, a story that started to put the pieces of this puzzle together for scientists. Let's go back in time to the 1980s in the United States. American schools noticed something very strange happening with immigrant children. These were children who arrived in America from countries like Mexico, Vietnam, or Korea, knowing absolutely zero English. They were placed in regular classrooms with native English speakers, immersed in the language completely. For the first few months, something interesting happened. These immigrant children would sit in the back of the room, completely silent. They did not speak to the teacher, they did not speak to other students, and they did not participate in class discussions. They watched, they listened, but they made no sound. The teachers were naturally very worried. They thought these children might have learning disabilities. They thought the children were struggling or perhaps even refusing to learn. Parents were scared too. They would ask the teachers, "Why isn't my child talking? Is everything okay?" Everyone thought there was a serious problem. The pressure to speak grew and grew, but the children remained silent. This silence lasted for 5 months, sometimes 6 months, sometimes even longer. It was a mystery. But then, something amazing happened. Something that surprised everyone and changed the way we look at language learning. After about 5 or 6 months of this complete silence, these children suddenly started speaking English. And here is the incredible part. They did not start with baby words like cat or dog, or simple sentences like, "My name is John." No, they started speaking in full, complex sentences. They used correct grammar, they had clear pronunciation, and they could communicate their ideas fluently. It was like a switch had been flipped in their brains. Overnight, it seemed, they had become fluent speakers. At the same time, researchers looked at other children in traditional English as a second language classes. These were classes where children were forced to speak from day one, doing repetition drills, grammar exercises, and constant output. The results were shocking. Years later, those children who were forced to speak early often still struggled with heavy accents, bad grammar habits that they couldn't fix, and a lot of frustration. The silent children, the ones who took their time, had surpassed them in a fraction of the time. The silent children had built a solid house, while the speaking children had built a house on sand. This mysterious situation caught the attention of Professor Stephen Krashen, one of the world's leading language learning experts. His discovery revolutionized everything we thought we knew about learning languages. He realized that these silent children were not being lazy or slow. Their brains were doing something incredibly smart, something strategic. They were building a complete mental model of the English language before they tried to use it. They were observing, listening, and absorbing. They were waiting until they were ready. This phenomenon became known as the silent period. Think about this for a moment in the context of your own life. When you learned your native language as a baby, did anyone force you to speak on your first day of life? Of course not. You spent the first year or two of your life just listening. You were in a natural, silent period. You heard your parents speak. You heard the TV. You heard the sounds of the world. Your brain was busy creating connections between those sounds and the meanings they represented. You were building a foundation. You only started speaking when your brain had enough data, when that foundation was strong enough to support the building. This is natural language acquisition, and it is the most effective way to learn. It is wired into our biology. Somewhere along the way as adults, we forgot this. We started to believe that learning is different for adults, that we need to force it. But the brains of adults, while different in some ways, still follow the same fundamental rules of acquisition. Now let's look at the fascinating science behind the silent period. What is actually happening inside your head during this time? It is not just empty time. It is not a time of inactivity. In fact, it is a time of massive, intense activity. During the silent period, your brain is doing 3 incredibly important jobs. These jobs are very difficult, almost impossible, to do efficiently if you are also trying to speak at the same time. First, your brain builds what scientists call a virtual language model. Imagine your brain is like a powerful supercomputer. To run a new program, in this case the English language, it needs to download and install the software. This software includes grammar patterns, vocabulary networks, and sound systems. It is a huge amount of data. This download process takes a lot of mental energy and processing power. When you try to speak too early, you are interrupting this download. You are forcing the computer to run a program that isn't finished installing yet. The result is a system crash, stress, confusion, and mistakes. Your brain is trying to build the database while you are trying to query it. It doesn't work well. Second, your brain creates connections between new English sounds and the knowledge you already have. This is a concept we call mapping. You already know what water is. You know the feeling of water, the look of water, the taste of water, and the importance of water. You have a concept of water in your mind. Your brain's job now is to attach the English sound water to that existing concept. It is like putting a new label on an old file folder. This sounds simple, but think about it. You have thousands and thousands of these concepts. You have concepts for emotions, for actions, for abstract ideas. Your brain needs to organize them quietly. It needs to attach the new English labels to all the files in your mental library. If you are constantly trying to speak, your brain is too busy searching for words to organize the filing cabinet. It creates a messy system where words are hard to find later. This is why you often feel the word is on the tip of your tongue. The file is there, but the label is missing or messy. Third, and this is my favorite part, your brain develops what researchers call a feel for the language. This is sometimes called language intuition. You know how in your native language you just know when something sounds right? If someone says, "I am go to the store," you immediately feel that it is wrong. You don't need to think about the grammar rule for subject-verb agreement or present tense. You just feel it in your gut. That is the goal for your English learning. Your brain develops this feel by observing the language in action, over and over again, without the pressure to perform. It notices patterns naturally. It notices that we say a big house and not a house big. It notices the melody of questions versus statements. It notices that we often use the present continuous tense for things happening right now. It absorbs these rules subconsciously, but it can only do this if you give it time to observe without the stress of having to produce the language yourself. It is like learning to cook. Before you start cooking, you watch a master chef for a long time. You see how they hold the knife, how they mix the ingredients. You don't jump in immediately. You watch and absorb the feel of the kitchen. Professor Krashen called this process comprehensible input. This is the most important term for you to remember today. Comprehensible input simply means messages that you understand, even if they contain some new language elements. The key point here is that your brain learns language when you understand the meaning, not when you memorize rules. This is a revolutionary idea for many people. Think about it. You can memorize a grammar book. You can know every rule about past perfect tense, but that doesn't mean you can speak. You might know the rule but be unable to use it in a conversation. But when you watch a movie and you see a character looking sad and saying, "I've lost my keys," you understand the meaning immediately. You see the emotion. You see the context. Your brain connects the feeling with the phrase. You didn't study a rule. You absorbed a reality. That is the power of comprehensible input. It fuels the silent period. However, there is a trap that many learners fall into, a trap that stops the silent period from working. They think, Okay, Jessica says I need input, so I will watch the news in English, or I will read a scientific article, or I will listen to a fast-paced podcast for native speakers. But if the input is too difficult, if you understand less than 50%, your brain gets overwhelmed. It creates anxiety, and the learning stops. It is just noise. It is like trying to drink from a fire hose. Too much water comes at you, and you can't swallow any of it. On the other hand, if the input is too easy, if it is just, "Hello, how are you?" and you are an intermediate learner, your brain gets bored and switches off. It doesn't need to work, so it doesn't learn. The magic spot, the sweet spot, is material that is just slightly above your current level. We often call this I+1. The I stands for where you are now, and the +1 is the new knowledge. You understand most of it, say about 80%, but there is just enough new stuff to keep your brain growing. It should be challenging but understandable. Think of it like lifting weights at the gym. If you try to lift a weight that is too heavy, you will hurt yourself and want to quit. If the weight is too light, you won't get stronger. But with the right weight, a weight that challenges you but that you can still lift, your muscles grow naturally. Your brain is a muscle in this sense. It needs the right amount of resistance to grow. Now let's talk about why speaking too early can actually backfire. This is a difficult truth for many people to hear because we live in a world that values action and output. We believe that practice makes perfect. But in language learning, premature speaking can be a disaster. To understand why, we need to look at how your memory works. Your brain has two main types of memory. We have working memory and long-term memory. Your working memory is like your desk. It is where you do your active thinking. It is where you solve math problems or remember a phone number for a few seconds. But it is small. It can only hold a few items at once, maybe 4 or 5 things. Long-term memory, on the other hand, is like a huge library or a warehouse where your permanent knowledge is stored. This library is vast. It holds your childhood memories, your name, and the meanings of thousands of words in your native language. Speaking a language fluently requires pulling information from that library instantly, without thinking. When you try to speak English before you have built a solid foundation in that library, you force your working memory to do everything at once. Because the knowledge isn't in the long-term library yet, your working memory has to search for vocabulary. Try to remember grammar rules, control your pronunciation muscles, and try to express your thoughts all at the same time. This creates a state called cognitive overload. It is like opening 20 tabs on your computer while trying to edit a video. The system slows down, freezes, or crashes. You feel this as stress, exhaustion, and frustration. You feel your brain heating up. This is not a pleasant feeling, and it kills your motivation. When your brain is in this state of overload, it does something very clever but very unhelpful for your long-term fluency. It takes shortcuts. It is desperate to communicate, so it grabs whatever is easiest. Often, the easiest thing is to translate directly from your native language. If the sentence structure in your language is, "I to the store go," you might say, "I to the store go" in English, because that is the easiest path. Or you might use the closest pronunciation sound from your native language. These shortcuts then become habits. They get locked into your brain's circuitry. You create a zombie version of English, a version that follows the rules of your native language but uses English words. This is why so many learners get stuck at an intermediate plateau. They are speaking, they are communicating, but they are speaking with fossilized errors, mistakes that have become permanent because they were practiced too early. They practiced the wrong thing so many times that it became second nature. Imagine trying to learn to play the piano. If you start playing a complex song on day one with the wrong finger positions, your muscles will memorize those wrong positions. You might be able to play the song, but you will play it badly. Later, when you want to play professionally, a teacher will tell you, you have to unlearn everything and start over. That is painful. It is much better to spend the initial time watching, listening, and understanding, so that when you do speak, you are using the correct patterns from the start. Your accent is another victim of speaking too early. Many people think accent is just about moving your mouth correctly, but accent is actually about how your brain hears sounds. English has sounds that might not exist in your native language. For example, the th sound, or the difference between the vowels in ship and sheep. During the silent period, your brain is tuning its antenna to pick up these new frequencies. It is learning to distinguish between these subtle differences. If you start speaking immediately, your brain will substitute the closest sound from your native language because that is what it knows. You will say ship when you mean sheep, and your brain will record that as correct. Your mouth muscles will memorize the wrong movement. Later, it is incredibly difficult to fix this. You have to retrain your ear and your mouth. Professional actors who need to learn a new accent for a movie role often use a silent observation period. They listen to native speakers for weeks before they ever open their mouths. They want their brains to absorb the melody and the sounds perfectly. They know that speaking too soon will ruin the accent. Research consistently shows that learners who respect the silent period develop much more natural, native-like pronunciation than those who rush to speak. They sound smoother, more natural, and easier to understand. So the big question is, how do you use this? How do you apply the silent period secret to your life? The magic number that researchers often talk about is about 6 months. Now, this doesn't mean you have to lock yourself in a room and talk to no one for 6 months. It doesn't mean you become a monk. It means that for the first 6 months of your serious English journey, your main goal is input, not output. You are feeding your brain high-quality English content while resisting the urge to force speech. You are allowing your brain to build that mansion before you start inviting people inside. Here is how you can structure this. Start with content that is slightly below your current level or right at your level. Do not be afraid of children's cartoons. I know what you are thinking. Jessica, I am an adult. I am a professional. I don't want to watch cartoons. But let me tell you a secret. Cartoons are brilliant for language learning. Why? Because the language is simple, the visual context is clear, and the pronunciation is usually very standard. When a character picks up an apple and says, "I love red apples," your brain connects the image of the apple with the sound instantly. There is no confusion. That is pure, comprehensible input. You don't need a dictionary. You don't need a translation. The meaning is right there on the screen. You can gradually increase the complexity, move from cartoons to educational videos for teenagers, then to simple documentaries or dramas where the story is easy to follow. The most important thing is that you understand the story. If you are watching a crime drama and you don't know who killed who, it's too hard. If you are watching a cooking show and you can follow the recipe, it's perfect. The context helps you understand. The absolute key to this method is understanding without translation. This is the hardest part for most learners. You must avoid subtitles in your native language. I know it is tempting. I know it feels more comfortable. But every time you read a subtitle in your language, you are training your brain to read, not to listen. You are training your brain to translate, not to understand directly. It becomes a crutch. English subtitles are better, but the absolute best progress happens with no subtitles at all. If you must use them, try to use English subtitles, but turn them off as soon as you can. You want to train your ears to do the work. You want to force your brain to process the sound waves. Let's talk about a practical daily routine. You need about 2 to 3 hours a day for the best results. I know that sounds like a lot. You have a job, you have a family, you have responsibilities. But think about how much time you spend on your phone, scrolling through social media. Think about how much time you spend watching TV in your native language. You can repurpose that time. You can replace that dead time with English. You can listen while you commute, while you wash the dishes, while you walk the dog, while you exercise. You don't need to be sitting at a desk to be learning. This is the beauty of the input method. You can learn while you live your life. You want to find content where you understand about 80% of what is happening. If you understand 100%, it is too easy. If you understand 50%, it is too hard. That 80% zone is where the magic happens. You are following the story, but you are also guessing the meaning of the new words from the context. This guessing process is vital. It is how your brain forms strong memories. When you figure out a word yourself from context, you will remember it forever. It becomes a part of you. If you look it up in a dictionary, you might forget it tomorrow. Why? Because your brain didn't have to work for it. Struggle is a part of learning. Not a frustrating struggle, but a productive struggle, a puzzle that you solve. I want to give you a specific phrase today to add to your vocabulary, a phrase that perfectly matches our philosophy. The phrase is, take your time. We often say this to someone who is rushing or feeling stressed. For example, if you are in a long line at a store and the person in front of you is moving slowly, you might feel impatient. But a polite person might smile and say, take your time. It means do not rush. Do it at your own pace. It is a very kind and gentle phrase. But for us as English learners, this phrase carries a deeper wisdom. In English-speaking cultures, take your time reflects an understanding that quality takes patience. When someone tells you to take your time, they are giving you permission to focus on quality rather than speed. They are saying that getting it right is more important than getting it done fast. For you, this phrase is a permission slip. You have permission to take your time with English. You do not need to race to fluency. You do not need to speak before you are ready. There is no deadline. You are not late. When you feel that pressure inside you, that anxiety that says, why can't I speak yet? My friend speaks so well. Just tell yourself, I am taking my time. It changes your mindset from one of failure to one of purpose. You are not silent because you can't speak. You are silent because you are building something incredible. You are taking your time to build it right. Let's visualize your journey over the next 6 months. I want you to imagine a timeline in your head. In month 1 and 2, you are just establishing the habit. You are finding content you enjoy. Maybe it is a podcast like this one. Maybe it is a YouTube channel about cooking. Maybe it is a TV show. The important thing is that you enjoy it. If you are bored, you will stop. The brain learns best when it is relaxed and interested, not when it is bored and stressed. Make a comfortable environment for yourself. Do not treat English as a subject like math or history. Treat it as a part of your lifestyle. Treat it as entertainment. In months 3 and 4, something interesting starts to happen. You will notice that you are recognizing words automatically. You won't need to translate apple anymore. You will just see the fruit in your mind when you hear the word. Songs will start to sound clearer. You might catch yourself humming an English song. You might hear a phrase in your head during the day. But remember, do not be tempted to start speaking yet. Your brain is still connecting the wires. It is like a construction site. The building is not finished just because the walls are up. The plumbing and electricity are still being installed. Trust the process. Enjoy the quiet. Enjoy the understanding. In months 5 and 6, the transformation begins. You will start thinking in English. This is a huge milestone. It might just be a word here or there at first. You might wake up in the morning and the first thought in your head is, I am tired, in English, not your native language. You might see a beautiful sunset and the word beautiful pops into your head automatically. You might even dream in English. This is a sign that the language is moving from your working memory to your long-term memory. It is becoming a part of you. You will understand jokes. You will be watching a movie and you will predict what the character is going to say next. This is your brain's language model reaching maturity. It is almost ready. After month 6, you can begin your speaking journey, but you will do it intelligently. You are not starting from zero anymore. You are starting with a full library in your head. You can start with shadowing exercises. This is a technique where you listen to a native speaker and repeat exactly what they say, trying to match their speed and intonation like a shadow. You are not creating sentences yet. You are just copying the music of the language. Then you can try describing your daily life. I am opening the door. The water is cold. I am making coffee. Simple descriptions. Finally, you can have real conversations. You will find that the words come to you. You won't have to force them. They will be there waiting for you. The difference will be shocking. Instead of panic, you will feel a flow. This approach requires a shift in your mindset, and that might be the hardest part. You have to stop measuring your progress by how much you speak. That is an old, broken way of thinking. You must start measuring your progress by how much you understand. Can you understand this podcast better than you could last month? Can you watch a video without subtitles and follow the main idea? That is real progress. You must stop feeling guilty about not speaking. You are not doing nothing. You are doing the most important work of all. You are building the foundation. Stop comparing yourself to that friend who speaks broken English but talks all the time. You are playing the long game. You are building a skyscraper. They are building a shed. Your result will be worth the wait. When you speak, you will speak correctly, clearly, and confidently. You won't have to fix bad habits later. You will sound professional and educated. But wait, I want to go deeper. I feel that just explaining the theory is not enough. I want to make sure you have a completely clear path to walk on. Many of you listening right now might be thinking, Jessica, this sounds wonderful, but I have a job. I have a family. I cannot just hide in my room and be silent. I need to communicate tomorrow. I completely understand this reality. Life does not stop for language learning. So let's talk about how to navigate this silent period in the real world, where silence isn't always an option. This is a crucial part of our discussion because the ideal situation and the real situation are often very different. If you are living in an English-speaking country, or if your job requires you to speak English, you might be panicking. You might think, I can't do the silent period, but you can in a modified way. Remember, the silent period is primarily about what happens inside your brain, not necessarily about keeping your mouth shut completely. It is about shifting your focus. For the vast majority of your day, when you are not at work or in social situations, you should be in input mode. This means your car, your kitchen, your bedroom, and your commute should be filled with English listening. You are creating a silent period bubble wherever you can. Then, when you are at work and you must speak, you will use a different strategy. You will use what we call formulaic chunks. Let me explain what formulaic chunks are. These are fixed phrases that you memorize for specific situations. Think of them like pre-made sentences that you can pull out of your pocket without thinking. For example, could you please repeat that? Or, I am not sure, let me check. Or, nice to meet you. These phrases are not creative speaking. You are not building sentences from scratch using grammar rules. You are simply repeating a sound you have memorized. Using these chunks allows you to survive in the real world without breaking the rules of the silent period too much. You are acting like a speaker, but your brain is still in the listening phase. So if you have to speak at work, memorize the top 20 phrases you need for your job. Practice them until they are automatic. This protects your brain from the stress of creating new sentences while you are still in the building phase. Now, I also want to address the common fear of missing out. Many learners feel that if they aren't speaking, they aren't learning. This is a lie that your anxiety tells you. Let me give you a comparison. Imagine a writer. A writer spends months, maybe years, just reading, researching, and thinking. They are not writing the book during that time. They are filling their mind with ideas, structures, and words. Then, when they sit down to write, it flows. If they tried to write without that preparation, the book would be empty and shallow. You are the writer. Your silent period is the research phase. You are gathering the materials for your masterpiece. Do not feel guilty about not writing yet. You are doing the necessary work of filling the well. Let's talk about another important aspect, the role of reading. We have talked a lot about listening, but reading is also a form of input. In fact, reading is the secret weapon of the silent period. Specifically, I want to talk about graded readers. These are books written specifically for learners. They use simplified vocabulary and grammar that matches your level. Why is reading so powerful during the silent period? Because when you listen, the sound goes by quickly. You have to catch it in real time. But when you read, you control the speed. You can stop, look at a sentence, and see the grammar structure clearly. You can see how the words connect. If you are in the silent period, I highly recommend reading for at least 20 minutes a day. Choose a book that is very easy for you. If you are B1 level, read A2 books. Yes, read books that are a little below you. Why? Because you want to read for pleasure and flow. You want to read where you understand 95% or even 100%. This builds immense confidence. You are seeing correct English sentence after correct English sentence. Your brain is absorbing the patterns without stress. It is like a spa day for your brain. If you choose a book that is too hard, where you have to check the dictionary every minute, you will quit. Reading should be a joy, not a struggle. If you are interested in detective stories, find a simple detective reader. If you like romance, find a simple romance reader. There are thousands of these books available. Go to your local library or search online for Graded Reader's English. This is one of the most effective ways to expand your vocabulary during the silent period. I also want to touch on a topic that is very close to my heart: the psychology of the learner. The silent period can be lonely. You might feel like you are the only one not speaking. You open Instagram or YouTube and you see polyglots speak in 5 languages in 5 minutes. You see your classmates chatting away. And there you are, listening. It requires a special kind of mental strength. It requires faith. You have to have faith in the process. You have to be like a gardener who plants a seed in the winter. For months, the gardener sees nothing. The ground is cold and empty. To the outside world, it looks like nothing is happening. But under the soil, deep in the dark, roots are growing. They are spreading out, finding water, finding nutrients. Without this invisible root system, the plant will die. The silent period is your roots. Do not envy the people who have a small, weak flower that bloomed too early. You are growing an oak tree. Oak trees take time, but they last for centuries. There's a specific technique I want to share with you that helps bridge the gap between silence and speaking. It is called shadowing, but we are going to do it in a specific way. Wait until you are a few months into your silent period. You are starting to understand well. You can try shadowing in your head. This is called mental shadowing. When you are listening to a podcast or watching a show, try to repeat the speaker's words in your mind, exactly at the same speed they are speaking. Do not use your voice. Just use your mind. This trains your brain to process the language quickly. It is like a simulation. Your brain is practicing the rhythm and the melody without the pressure of using your mouth muscles. This is incredibly effective. It keeps your brain active and engaged with the input. You are no longer just a passive listener. You are an active participant, but silently. Later, when you do open your mouth, you will find that your tongue moves more easily. Why? Because you have already practiced the rhythm mentally. This is a technique used by simultaneous interpreters. They listen and speak at the same time. It is a very high-level skill, but we can use a simplified version of it. So I encourage you to try this mental shadowing. It keeps you company during the silent period. It makes you feel like you are doing something active. Let's also talk about the concept of narrow listening or narrow input. This is a strategy to make the silent period more effective. The idea is simple. Instead of jumping from one topic to another, from one accent to another, try to stay narrow. Listen to the same speaker for a long time. Listen to the same topic for a week. Why? Because when you stick with one topic, the vocabulary repeats. If you listen to 5 different podcasts about cooking this week, you will hear words like boil, fry, mix, ingredients, and delicious many times. Each time you hear them, the connection in your brain gets stronger. You are not just hearing the word once, you are hearing it in different contexts, used in slightly different ways. This deepens your understanding. If you listen to a cooking show, then a history show, then a science show, your brain has to switch gears constantly. It is tiring. But if you stay in the cooking world for a while, your brain can relax and focus on the language, not just the new information. So I recommend choosing one podcaster or one YouTube channel that you really like. Make that person your virtual teacher. Listen to them every day for a month. You will get used to their voice, their speed, and their vocabulary. You will start to predict what they are going to say. This gives you a huge boost in confidence. You will feel like you know this person. This emotional connection helps you learn. When you like the speaker, your brain releases dopamine. Dopamine helps memory. So choose content that you love and stick with it for a while. Don't spread yourself too thin. Now, what happens when you finish the silent period? What happens after month 6 or month 8 when you feel that your brain is full? How do you start speaking? This is a scary moment for many people. You have been quiet for so long. You are afraid that when you open your mouth, nothing will come out. Let me reassure you, it will come out. But you must start slowly. The first step is mechanical output. This is not conversation. This is just testing the machine. You can do this alone in your room. Describe what you see. There is a cup on the table. The cup is white. I am holding a pen. Simple sentences. Do not try to discuss philosophy. Just describe physical reality. This connects your inner thoughts to your outer voice. It calibrates your microphone, so to speak. The next step is shadowing with your voice. Take a piece of audio that you have listened to many times during your silent period, audio that you know very well. Play it, pause it, and repeat a sentence. Try to match the emotion, the speed, and the pronunciation. Do not just say the words. Act the words. Be an actor. This is fun and low pressure. You are not creating language, you are imitating. Imitation is the highest form of flattery, and in language learning, it is the fastest way to fluency. Finally, you can move to interaction, but I recommend starting with text-based chatting first. Why? Because texting gives you time to think. It removes the pressure of real-time pronunciation. You can type a message, read it, correct it, and then send it. This helps you transition from passive understanding to active production. After you feel comfortable texting, you can try voice messages. Voice messages are great because you can record them, listen to them, and re-record them if you make a mistake. It is a safe bridge between writing and speaking. And then, one day, you will have a real conversation, and you will be surprised. You will be surprised at how natural it feels. You will be surprised that you didn't have to translate in your head. The words will just be there. It won't be perfect, and that is okay, but it will be fluent. It will be you, the real you, speaking in a new language. It is one of the most liberating feelings in the world. It is like flying, and you will get there. I promise you. I want to share a story with you, a story about two learners who approached English in very different ways. This story will illustrate exactly why the silent period is so powerful. Let's meet our first learner, Marco. Marco was the type of student who believed in attack mode. From his very first day of learning English, he was determined to speak. He joined conversation clubs, he found language exchange partners online, and he insisted on speaking in every class, even when he barely knew the words. He was brave. I will give him that. He had no fear, but he also had no foundation. In the beginning, his progress seemed fast. He could say, "Hello, my name is Marco. I am from Spain," within the first week. His friends weren't impressed. His family was impressed. Marco felt good, but then something strange happened. His progress stopped. After 6 months, Marco was still making the same mistakes. He was still translating in his head. He would say, "I have 20 years old," which is a direct translation from Spanish, instead of, "I am 20 years old." His teachers corrected him. He knew the rule. But in the heat of conversation, the mistake always came out. He was frustrated. He felt like he was running on a treadmill, sweating and working hard, but going nowhere. His brain was stuck with the patterns he had practiced, and those patterns were wrong. Now let's meet our second learner, Elena. Elena took a different path. She was quieter. She was shyer, perhaps. She decided to follow the silent period method. For the first 6 months, she did not speak at all. Her friends thought she was crazy. They asked her, "Elena, why aren't you practicing? You need to speak." Elena just smiled and said, "I am getting ready." She spent her time watching English TV series, listening to podcasts like this one, and reading simple novels. She absorbed. She listened. She let the language wash over her like waves on a beach. She didn't worry about making mistakes because she wasn't making any. She was just receiving. Then, after 8 months, Elena went to a language exchange event. Marco was there. Marco was talking loudly, making many mistakes, struggling to find words. Elena sat quietly, listening. Then someone asked her a question. She opened her mouth to answer, and what came out was fluent, natural, and correct English. The room went silent. Marco looked at her with his mouth open. "How did you do that?" he asked. "You haven't spoken in months." Elena replied, "I was building my house. You were trying to live in a house that wasn't built yet." This story shows us that visible progress early on is often a trap. Real progress is invisible at first. It happens in the dark, in the quiet corners of your mind. This brings me to a very important point about how we measure success. In school, we measure success by tests, by grades, and by how many words you can say. But in the real world, in the world of fluency, success is measured by automaticity. This is a big word, but the meaning is simple. Automaticity means doing something without thinking about it. When you tie your shoes, do you think about the movement of your fingers? No. You just do it. That is automaticity. When you drive a car, do you think, "Now I press the brake, now I turn the wheel"? No. You think about where you are going. The driving happens automatically. This is the goal for your English. You want to get to a point where the grammar happens automatically, where the pronunciation happens automatically. So your brain is free to think about your ideas and your feelings. The silent period is the incubator for automaticity. When you are listening, your brain is collecting data. It is seeing the patterns thousands of times. It sees the word have and has 1,000 times in different contexts. Eventually, your brain creates a rule, not a written rule, but a feeling. It knows that he has sounds right and he have sounds wrong. If you speak too early, you are practicing he have because you don't know better yet. You are practicing the wrong automaticity. You are teaching your brain to be automatically wrong. This is why unlearning bad English is 10 times harder than learning good English from the start. Be patient. Let the automaticity grow naturally. Now, I want to talk to you about something called the plateau of latent potential. This is a concept that explains why people quit. Imagine a graph. The line across the bottom is time. The line going up is progress. Most people think progress is a straight line going up. You study for 1 week, you get better. You study for 2 weeks, you get even better. But that is not how learning works, especially language learning. In the beginning, during the silent period, you put in a lot of effort. You listen for hours, but the line of progress stays flat. You don't see any change on the outside. You can't speak yet. You feel like you are wasting your time. This is the plateau of latent potential. You are planting seeds, but you don't see the tree yet. Many learners quit right here. They quit in month 3 or month 4 because they think, this isn't working. I am still silent. They lose faith. But what they don't realize is that the work they did is not lost. It is stored. It is latent potential. It is waiting for the right moment to explode. And then, suddenly, the line shoots up. This is the breakthrough. The tree breaks through the soil. Suddenly, everything clicks. But you only get the breakthrough if you survive the plateau. You have to trust that the growth is happening underground. If you dig up the seed every day to check if it is growing, you will kill it. Do not check your progress every day by trying to speak. Let the seed grow. Let's discuss the role of emotions in the silent period. Emotions are a huge part of language learning. When you try to speak and you make mistakes, how do you feel? You feel embarrassed. You feel stupid. You feel small. These negative emotions create a block in your brain. They create a wall of anxiety. Many people develop a block about speaking English because of these early negative experiences. They associate English with stress and shame. This is tragic. The silent period protects you from this emotional damage. During the silent period, your relationship with English is peaceful. It is about understanding, not performing. You watch a movie, you enjoy the movie. You listen to a song, you enjoy the song. There is no judgment. There is no score. It is just you and the language, having a nice time. This builds a positive emotional connection. You learn to love English. When you finally speak, you speak from a place of confidence and joy, not fear. You protect your heart during the silent period. I want to give you a practical tip for your daily routine. It is called the Environment Immersion Strategy. You might not be able to travel to London or New York, but you can bring London or New York into your house. Change the language on your phone. Change the language on your computer operating system. Change the language on your social media accounts. When you wake up and look at your phone, the first thing you see is weather or calendar in English. Your brain starts processing English from the first second of the day. This is passive input. You are not studying, you are just living, but you are living in English. This creates an environment where English is the normal language, not the foreign language. It breaks the mental barrier that says, English is something I study for 1 hour a day. No, English is your life. This mindset shift is crucial for fluency. Another question I often get is about vocabulary. People ask, Jessica, how do I learn new words during the silent period if I am not speaking or writing them? The answer is, you learn them through context. Let me explain the difference between explicit learning and implicit learning. Explicit learning is when you sit with a list of words and memorize them. Apple equals manzana. Table equals mesa. This is hard work, and the memory is usually weak. You forget the word quickly. Implicit learning is when you learn without trying. You are reading a story and you see the word gigantic. The picture in the book shows a huge giant. The text says, "The giant was gigantic." You don't need a dictionary. You understand that gigantic means very big. And because you learned it through a story and an image, the memory is deep. It is connected to a feeling and a picture. During the silent period, you want to maximize implicit learning. You want to guess the meaning. You want to struggle just a little bit to figure it out. That struggle creates a strong memory trace. The word becomes yours. So, I want to challenge you. For the next week, put away your dictionary app. Put away your translator. Trust your brain. When you hear a new word, don't panic. Don't stop the audio. Keep listening. Look for clues. Use your detective skills. What is the situation? What is the speaker's face doing? What are the other words in the sentence? You will be surprised at how much you can understand without translation. You are smarter than you think. Your brain is a pattern recognizing machine. Give it a chance to work. As we continue to explore this topic, I want to touch on the illusion of competence. This is a dangerous trap. Sometimes you think you understand English, but actually you are just reading subtitles or using context you already know. To truly test your input, try listening to something with your eyes closed. Close your eyes. Take away the visual cues. Can you still follow the story? This is the real test of the silent period. You want to train your ears to be the primary source of information. If you always watch with subtitles, you are training your eyes, not your ears. The silent period requires ear training. So I recommend a practice I call blind listening. Spend 15 minutes a day just listening with your eyes closed, maybe on the bus, maybe before you sleep. Just you and the sound. This focuses your brain 100% on the audio. It forces your brain to process the sounds deeply. It is like going to the gym for your ears. It might be tiring at first, but it is incredibly effective. Let's talk about the intermediate plateau again, because this is where most of you are listening from right now. You are B1 learners. You are not a beginner anymore, but you are not advanced yet. You are stuck in the middle. Why does this happen? It happens because you stop the input. Many B1 learners think, okay, I know the basics. Now I just need to practice speaking. So they stop reading and listening to simple things. They try to jump to complex news articles or academic papers, but they don't understand enough, so they get frustrated, or they just spend all their time trying to speak. The B1 level is actually the most critical time for the silent period. You have enough foundation to understand a lot, but you need massive amounts of input to push you to the next level. You need to flood your brain with natural English. You need to move from textbook English to real-world English. This transition requires input, input, input. At the B1 level, you should be reading novels. Yes, real novels. Maybe simplified ones at first, but novels. Why? Because a novel contains thousands of sentences in a row. It is a deep dive into the language. A textbook gives you one sentence, then explains it. A novel gives you a river of language. You get into the flow. You stop thinking about the grammar and you start living the story. This is how you get from B1 to B2 and then to C1. You need volume. You need to consume large amounts of English. Quantity matters. The silent period gives you the time to consume this quantity. I also want to talk about identity. Who are you when you speak English? Many of you feel like a different person. You feel like a child. You feel like you are not smart. This is because you are trying to express your adult ideas with a child's vocabulary. It is frustrating. It hurts your ego. The silent period allows you to build a new identity. You are not practicing English. You are living in English. When you listen to podcasts or watch movies, you are engaging with the world as an adult. You understand complex ideas, humor, and drama. You are still you. You are smart, you are funny, you are interesting. You are just silent. This preserves your dignity. When you finally speak, your vocabulary and your confidence will match your adult identity. You won't feel like a fake. You will feel like yourself, just in a new language. So as we wrap up this extended deep dive into the silent period, I want to give you a final, very specific roadmap for the next 30 days. I want to make this practical. I don't want you to just listen to this podcast and say, that was nice, and then go back to your old habits. I want you to take action. Here is the challenge. For the next 30 days, I challenge you to a speaking fast. This is extreme, but it works. For 30 days, commit to zero speaking. No English classes where you have to talk. No language exchange apps, just input. Every day for 1 hour minimum, you will consume English. But here is the twist. You must consume the same material multiple times. You will choose one movie, one podcast series, or one book. And you will stick with it for the whole month. You will listen to the same audio until you know it by heart. You will hear the same voices, the same vocabulary, the same grammar patterns over and over again. This creates a micro-immersion. You will be shocked at how much you learn by going deep instead of wide. You will start to dream about the characters. You will start to think in their phrases. This intense focus breaks the barrier. It forces the language into your long-term memory. At the end of the 30 days, you will record yourself on video. You will talk about the movie or the book you absorbed. You will not prepare a script. You will just press record and talk. You will then compare this video to a video you made before the challenge. I promise you, you will see a difference. You will see a smoothness, a calmness in your English that wasn't there before. This is the power of the secret. Remember, my friends, language is not a code to be broken. It is a melody to be learned. You cannot learn a melody by shouting it. You learn it by listening to it, humming it in your head, and letting it sink into your soul. Give yourself the gift of silence. Give your brain the time it needs to build the most beautiful, strongest, most fluent version of your English self. As we finish today, I want to leave you with a powerful thought. You have just learned a secret that millions of learners will never know. You now know that silence is not your enemy. Silence is your greatest tool. It is the workshop where your brain builds fluency. The silent period is not about being passive. It is about being strategic. It is about working with your biology instead of fighting against it. Thousands of people are struggling right now, forcing words out of their mouths, sweating and stressing, creating bad habits that will take years to fix. They are running on a treadmill and getting nowhere. But not you. Not anymore. You understand why your brain has been hesitating. It was protecting you. It was waiting for you to give it enough data so that it could speak beautifully. It was waiting for the foundation to be poured. Your brain is an amazing machine. It is the most complex object in the universe. It has already learned one language perfectly, your native language. Trust it to learn this one. Give it the input it craves. Give it time. 6 months from now, or maybe a year from now, you will open your mouth and fluent natural English will flow out. You will look back on this moment, this decision to trust the silence, and you will be so proud. You will realize that the silence wasn't a wall, it was a cocoon. And you, my friend, are about to become a butterfly. Your English transformation begins right now, not with speaking, but with listening, understanding, and embracing the quiet power of the silent period. Thank you so much for listening to English in Advance. I am Jessica, and I am honored to be part of your journey. If this message resonated with you, if you found value in this episode, please share it with a friend who is struggling. Let's spread the secret of the silent period and help more learners find their path to fluency. Remember, great English speakers are not born. They are built, one day of smart input at a time. Take your time. Trust the process, and I will see you in the next episode. Your fluent future is waiting. Happy learning.